Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be doing my July and August wrap up. I didn't do one in July just because I really just didn't feel like it. So I have a lot of books to go through today. I'm not going to go very much in detail because I don't want this video to be like a million years long. I literally have 15 books sitting beside me, and well, let's just jump into this. The first book I read in July was War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. This is the last book in the Red Queen series. I'm gonna be completely honest, I am having trouble deciding which book is my favorite of that series. I really liked the ending, but I also really liked the first book. I usually prefer the first books in series. They just like hold a special place in my heart because they have all the world building and the characters are being introduced, and I am still in amazement on how well Victoria Aveyard fills this world with characters while giving them, like, having them so fleshed out. All of them are so fleshed out, and it's amazing to me that she can just juggle all of these characters in the ways that she does. The next book I read was The Kiss of Deception. Then I read The Heart of Betrayal and The Beauty of Darkness. This trilogy fell flat for me. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to. There was so much stuff packed into The Kiss of Deception that I felt was just unnecessary. And then the way everything ended for our main characters in The Beauty of Darkness was like, I wanted this to go another way, but it looks like it's still gonna work out, so I'll take it. I do wish, however, they had gone through the gift a little better to like more accurately convey how it works. I don't know. It was okay. Not my favorite trilogy. I honestly can't remember the ratings, but let me pull up my ratings real quick. Going back to War Storm got a 4 stars. See, for The Kiss of Deception, this got a 2 stars, The Heart of Betrayal got a 2.5 stars, and then I gave The Beauty of Darkness a 3 stars. So, out of all of them, The Beauty of Darkness was the best one, but that's because we were out of the anxiety range for me. Like, at this point in the series, I just knew everything was going to wrap up nicely. Now, how long it was going to take to do that, it wasn't worth the wait, but I understand why everything that happened needed to happen. The other 2 books, I feel like there were so many unnecessary things happening. But there was also a lot of plot points sprinkled in throughout instead of just info dumping it on us in the first 2 books. So that's also important to note. I was just impatient, to be honest, with the series. The next book I read was Broken Throne by Victoria Aveyard. This is a novella bind-up. I believe there's 5 novellas. I do like how the font is a different color. It's purple, and I do like these like little information, like histories and reports and stuff in between, and maps. These are really nice. I really love this map. I wanted to see so bad what country this was set in, and it's the United States, but it's also broken up in a way where even before I saw this full map, I was like, I think Kentucky, which is the state I live in, would be in Piedmont, and it is. The entire state is like the last of the like northern states of this part that is part of Piedmont. So that was really interesting. I'm glad I bought this bind up just because of this extra stuff, but at the same time, it's not necessary to read this at all, any of these bind-ups, to get to know the story. I mean, there's, besides maybe the last novella, just, to see where, the characters end up. There's also annotated chapter of Red Queen in the back, which I am a big fan of annotation now, and I'm still learning. I'm still in the beginner phases, but I really love annotating now, so this was very interesting to see how an author would annotate their work. Oh, Broken Throne I gave a like 2.75 stars, just because I did like all the novellas were good, but the last one kind of shot it up from a 2 stars for me. The next book I read was the Inexplicable Logic of My Life by this author. This is the second book of his that I've read, and I gave this, I think, a 1 star. I didn't write anything about it down because I didn't care for it. If anything, I disliked this more than I disliked Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe, which I think I gave that book like a 2.5 stars or something. I don't like the writing. The writing, the characters to me aren't fully fleshed out. They aren't developed really throughout the story enough to please me, at least. And you know, the relationships can be cute and everything, but at the same time, they feel, some of them, like on one hand they feel a bit forced, and on the other hand they feel like circumstances just had them falling together too easily. If that makes any sense. I just don't like it, and the writing alone was enough to make me not want to read any more of his books, just because the pacing is so weird. Like, everything takes place over a certain like amount of time, amount of months. Like, it's also set into parts, like part 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like we're given like flashes of the characters' lives, but we don't get to see their lives as a whole. So it's like we're reading a diary, and I don't like it. The next 2 books I read were Starflight and Starfall by Melissa Landers. This was a first, a lot of authors this year are going to be like first time I've read from this author. This is another one. I actually have 2 of this author's series on this list. Starflight I gave a 4 stars, and Starfall I gave a 3 stars. This book I really enjoyed, and our main characters, Solara and Dorian, I forgot the main character's name, male main character's name. Dorian and Solara became, like, this is an enemies to lovers trope, and also like a, I don't know what the trope is called when a poor person and a rich person fall in love and become a couple. This follows that. There's also found family in this, which I wish they had touched on quite a bit more, because I just felt like they've been gone. They hadn't seen each other in so long. One thought the other was dead, and it's like, why? Horrible parents in this as well, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. The reason Starfall got such a lower rating is because this follows the other 2 characters, which is Cassia. I remember Cain. I thought Cain, but I was like, that doesn't sound right. Cassia and Cain. I hate Cassia. Cain deserves so much better. That was my thought during the entire reading of this book, is Cain deserves better, because Cassia was just being overly dramatic and making things 10 times harder than they needed to be. Also, another thing I really didn't like about this book is the fact that there was like low bar torture, like not like intense, or like the character instigated it basically. So I wish it had gone a little bit more into that, because it was just like weeks passed and this is what happened. And that kind of happened in this book too, but there wasn't like torture involved. It was, well, not the physical kind of torture. This one was more like a mental torture. Oy vey on that one. But yeah, out of the 2, Starflight was my favorite, and both of these could have been read as standalones, which I kind of appreciated. The characters for this short amount of pages was also very fleshed out. I also like how this series has lovable side characters. One is a kleptomaniac, which is something I've never read in a book, and another is the fact that one of the characters, their pet is a sugar glider, which is something I've wanted a lot of my life. Sugar gliders are adorable, and I love the fact that they're represented in this series. I said I wasn't going to talk much about these books, and I end up talking a lot about these books. Next book I read in July is Finder Embrace. This is volume 12. This is the beginning of a new arc, I believe, in the Finder series. It was either the last volume or this volume that marks the start of a new arc. And I will say it's probably my least favorite. I can't really say much without spoiling it, but this is, I think, my least favorite beginning to an arc. If you guys don't know what Finder is, this is a BL Mafia manga. where one of the main characters is a mafia boss and the other one, the lover, is a criminal photographer. There's a lot of gore and death, not really high class gore. Like, this is very low grade gore, like just blood. There's a lot of BDSM as well, which I'm not really partial to. I'm taking a whole. The BDSM is probably, I think, a part of every manga. I'm not going to sit down and check, but it's usually just like small parts. It's not all encompassing in the book. Like, I enjoy the mafia aspects and the relationship aspects more than I do the sexy fun time aspects. Those are necessary because it's a BL. At least it feels necessary. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, those parts are nice, but can we like move on to just cuddling? Because for some reason I like that a lot more. There's also, these manga also have like small little stories in the back that are like their time in between all the crap that's going on, which I also love so much. I love these characters so much. Akito is a doll baby and deserves the world. And I'm going to move on before I spoil anything, because I really do love that manga series. I think this is the last book I read in July, is a reread of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Some of you may know that I really don't like this book. I give it a 1 star originally. Reread, I gave it a 2 stars. Like, it was better than I remember, but it's still pretty bad, and I still really don't like it. Simon and Baz, I just felt like in the beginning, we needed more time to build up everything to do with their relationship, because this book shoves in 6 years of school in however many pages this is, while also developing a relationship between Simon and Baz, destroying a relationship between Simon and Agatha, and Penny just existing. I forgot how much I really disliked Penny and Agatha. I didn't like them. I was playing Pokemon at the time, and I named my Gyarados. I was doing a Nuzlocke, so I named my Gyarados that I had to catch Agatha, because honestly, sometimes she reminded me of a giant serpent. Anyways, I just didn't like the fact that so much of their history and backstory and character development was just being shoved through a bunch of history that we weren't privy to, that we're just hearing about. It goes back to the whole show, don't tell, and this book did a whole lot of telling, and I can't get over that. This is something that I feel like would have been okay on fan fiction, considering it is fan fiction, but at the same time, I don't think it made a very good story. I feel like we needed, like, I don't know, you could have had like an extra 50 pages in the beginning and just given us like a detailed prologue or backstory, history, whatever you want to call it, that's not an actual part of the story, that you can read it beforehand, and it tells us everything that's happened with them in these 6 years of schooling. I would have loved that a lot more than just throwing us in and expecting us to want these two together when we don't have a relationship that's been built on for 6 years. We've missed 6 years of their lives. Wayward Son. This, I think I had originally given a 3 stars and I dropped it to a 2 because I hated the drama, the unnecessary drama that Simon just brings into the relationship. I'm not going to talk about this much. It's a road trip across America. Agatha's stupid. Hated her even more in that one. She makes up for it a bit in this one. This was my first read of August, by the way. I didn't read many books in August. I read Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell next. The reason Wayward Son was also a reread. I don't know if I said that. But the reason I read these 2 books is because I wanted a refresher. It had been a long time, like since those books were released, that I read them. And I wanted to finish the trilogy just to make sure, because I really did like Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and I was like, you know, I should give this series a try since I've already read the first 2 books. Why I read book 2 when I didn't like book 1, I don't know. But anyway, The Wind Blows got a 3 stars from me. It was my favorite book of the trilogy. Not saying much. This was a very low 3 stars. That was mainly because since this was the final book, everything had to be tied together. You had to get all your questions answered, even from book one about Simon not knowing anything about his parents and everything. That had to be wrapped up in this book, or I was going to hate it. Thankfully, it was indeed wrapped up. If it hadn't been, I was going to be so pissed. The fact that it took so long to get it resolved pissed me off as well. But regardless, all the relationships also had to be wrapped up, which I was also very happy about because I was tired of the drama, the unnecessary drama that was just boiling between Simon and Baz. Also, can I just say that this series as a whole has more prejudice than Harry Potter did with muggles and wizards? It's like, why are you people like this? The magic system, while interesting, is also something I really hated about this book, because it not only, we find out in Wayward Son, it not only depends on pop culture references, but it also depends on the country you're in and if they're popular in that country. And that to me is very interesting, and it's a good workaround in some areas. At the same time, it's so stupid. I feel like magic as a whole shouldn't depend on the area you're in, whether it works or not, you know? Like the dead spots, I understand. That's a whole different story. Everything else is just why. Moving on. Alienated and Invaded. I did read the final book, United, from the library, but that's a library book. I did listen to the audiobooks of this too, because to be completely honest, I wasn't going to get through them otherwise. Let's see. Alienated. This was a 3 stars. Invaded was a 2 stars. And United was a 3 stars as well. These books were they were meh. Like, not a lot of exciting things happened to them. There wasn't a whole lot of world building necessarily, like info dumpy kind of world building. It was more like sporadic, like fun facts in this book. And then we got the actual world building in this book. And no matter how hard I try, I cannot visualize this world. All I am visualizing is a gray blob with gray buildings and an obstacle course and some kind of weird lemur monkey pet. United, everything wrapped up a little too nicely, and I wasn't really happy with how everything worked out towards the end. I mean, I was for the characters, but for the situation they were in, I just felt like it was too simplified, and it happened too easily. It was too convenient. I think that was a big part of my problems just overall with the series, is it felt like if anything happened at all, which wasn't a big thing. Most of everything that happened in Alienated is them going to school and learning about each other and slowly falling in love, which I did like how you don't realize they're falling in love until they've already fallen in love. Invaded was more world-buildy, so like the convenience there was just the fact that it felt too easy for the main character to adapt to this world, go to Earth, and just everything being too much. It's like she was only there for, I don't know, 2 to 3 months, and in that time, everything about her life changed. And I know it takes about that long to form a habit. Completely not want to have anything to do with your home planet is weird, considering that's where all your family and friends and everyone who doesn't hate you is. Everyone on that planet hated her, but for some reason she wanted to return, not just because of the love of her life, because honestly she was going to stay on Earth because everyone hated her, but then she got to Earth, realized, this is a lot to deal with, and we are so frivolous with everything, and then wants to go back, and then chaos ensues, and nothing works out the way they want. I'm keeping all of that in. I don't think any of that was spoilers. I'm keeping all of it in. The last book I read in August is the first book of Earth Girl, I don't know what the series is called, by Janet Edwards. I tabbed the heck out of this book. I don't know if I can find it, but like I started annotating this book out the wazoo. I was really enjoying it. There's a lot of world building in this book. This book, I'm not going to go too much into it. This book is set on Earth, so I thought there wouldn't be a lot of world building. I didn't know that it's set 700 plus years in the future. And that there was solar systems filled with humans that have just fled Earth to live on other planets that have been colonized. And that there's some people, our main character, Jara, for example, who has like an allergic reaction whenever she enters one of these planets, so that the Earth is literally inhabited by people who just can't leave Earth, or people who choose not to, or people who have children that they do not want to abandon on Earth, because, oh my gosh, the parenting is horrible in this. And speaking of parenting, everything that happens with Jara is too convenient. That happened too conveniently for my taste. If you know, you know. I don't want to spoil it, but there's just one part in the book, like maybe a little over halfway through, that just happens and it's too convenient, and it completely changes Jara's character to the point where I wasn't sure if I should count it as a part of her character. Other than that, there was also a lot of things that you can't even call foreshadowing. This is a debut novel, so I can kind of see trying to work around this where it's not so obvious would have been very easy, but at the same time, a couple of them I can understand. One I cannot, because it mentioned several times about the amount of time they had to do something, and I was like, okay, you've mentioned this 3 times in like the last page and a half. I know they're not going to make it in time. That is not really foreshadowing, but just basically telling the reader that, hey, you don't have to worry, don't feel anxious, because everything is going to be okay in the end. And I didn't like that, but I did end up giving this book a 4 stars, or more like it's more like a 3.75 stars, 3.5 stars, something like. This is one of those books I usually can get like maybe 50 to 100 pages into a book and know what rating I'm going to give it. I had no idea with this book, and I'm still like fluctuating between a 3.5 and a 4 stars. So I'm settling right now on 3.75. Also, prejudice in this book is very prevalent, and the way it is done is very spot on, because all the prejudice is, well, okay, most of the prejudice is towards handicaps. And handicaps are what they call people that cannot leave Earth. Not like actual handicapped people of today's society and world. But the way they are treated and talked about and seen less than human, and the fact that their lives are less than the people who can leave Earth, all of that, whether people want to admit it or not, is very on point with how people today feel about people who are mentally and physically handicapped. I cannot count the amount of times I've come across this when I take my handicapped aunt, she's mentally handicapped, I take her to go to the grocery store, or if we're in the hospital or something, and people just do not think her life is worth living. There are a lot of people that are happy that we are being with her and not putting her in a home, and we're actually trying to keep her with us and safe and healthy. And then there are other people, doctors included, mind you, that just tell us to pull the plug, that her life isn't worth anything. And that is a connection I see in this book. I mean, it's very low key, and it's only like 1 or 2 people who feel this way, but that's the way it is in real life. Like, out of maybe 100 people, you'll find 1 or 2 that feel this way, but they also are very vocal about it. So I love the way that prejudice was worked into this book, and how sensitive the topic is. I really love how it was handled. So that's like, the writing gets me sometimes, because in the world building, this is a very massive world with world building. Like, those make me side on the 3 stars, because it does make it a very slow read. Also, the terminology is very stupid and juvenile, and oh my gosh, I cringe and roll my eyes at so much of the terminology of this. But the prejudice and the way it's handled in this book wants me to bump it up to a 4 stars so much. Just because it's not something that I've seen used much in books, especially YA books, and it's also something that normally isn't handled in such a sensitive but also in your face way. So I really like that, and I cannot wait to get to the next two books. I am actually not reading these through audiobook. I'm just physically reading them, so I'm reading them a lot slower. But I'm really, really enjoying it, and I cannot wait to just dive into the next book, which hopefully I may be doing that tonight. Okay, these are all the books I read. I don't know if I want to try to hold these up. This may kill me. Okay, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to hold all these up, let's be honest. Whee! Yeah. Okay, we're not doing that. That's just not possible. It's just too many books. Too many. 15 books. Before I end off here, I do think that I always take notes when I read. I think I'm going to start annotating almost every book I read, because I love this and the fact that I can go through here and just see exactly what I thought with everything going on in this book. And if I reread it, which I do plan to reread this down the road because it's really good, I can't wait to re-annotate it. Like, go through this and just see everything that I annotated. I have some thoughts off to the side of what I thought about stuff, and I'll choose a different color, obviously, but it'll be like one read through is this color, and you can see all that, and then you read it again and you can like remark everything, and I love it so much, and I want to do that with every book I read now. At least all the books that I intend to keep. Like, this one was different. Like, the very first page, you have so many different terms that you have to keep up with. I think there's like 4 or 5 different like weird terms. Yeah, everything that I circled here is like a new term, and this highlight is something of one of the terms was explained, at least minimally. It gets to the next page where it's actually explained more in depth. There was so much in this book right off the bat that I knew I was going to have to tab it and like highlight some stuff, which not all books are like that. Like Carry On, I would never tab that series normally, especially since I'm iffy on whether I'm keeping these books. I honestly don't think I am. So I have to be picky about the annotation, but I don't have to start the annotation in a way that's going to be, you know what, I'm just going to stop talking about it. The annotation doesn't have to be like permanent. I don't have to highlight and pen. I can just mark on my with my tabs and everything. I may, once I get more comfortable with annotating, make an annotating video, but that may be like months, if not a year, down the line, because it's one of those things you have to get comfortable with before you can actually talk about it and like give people advice on it. So just gonna stop talking about it for now, and we will get back to that at a later date maybe. Anyways, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry both to myself now, because past me thought it'd be a smart idea to just combine July and August, because I didn't feel like making a flippin' video in July. I'm sorry you guys had to wait for that, and I'm sorry this video is so long, because it's going to be long. I want to take a nap, but I can't. I got so much still to do. This video is going to take forever to edit. Okay, see you guys later. Bye!